The idea was really to speak about voice assistive devices and what kind of experiences publishers can have there. I'm obviously representing Google Assistant here. It's really one of the biggest voice activated devices out there. It's available over 400 devices. You can have lots of different experiences from audio to text to video nowadays as well. There's also a way of having your own action, your own much more interactive app in there. There's a lot of different experiences that are available today for publishers. There's a lot of questions from publishers because they're obviously interested in how to take part of the assistant. And my job really is to explain them on all those different ways that are available, that are sometimes very easy to do, like audio news briefs. That's relatively easy to do technically, to something much more complicated, but is potentially much more interesting, such as the actions on Google part. It's exactly that. Publishers, for them, this is a way to test with new formats. It allows them to connect to users, to connect to readers, and to connect to people that listen to their content in new contexts, right? So it's not just a context of a smartphone or context of a computer, but context of a smart speaker or context of sitting inside a car and talking to the Google Assistant and also listening to news, right? So there's new context and also then new mediums. So that medium could be then audio, right? So as I said, a user that wakes up, does something in the living room, getting ready for breakfast and etc. That user can tell Google Assistant, hey, what is the news? Or they can say, hey, good morning. And once they say good morning, the whole morning ritual gets kicked off, which is the agenda of that person, which is also the weather, and also news, right? So that's just another interesting way of connecting to users in a whole different context that usually publishers are used to. So smart speakers are certainly taken off pretty fast. Assistant overall, we have usage across many different devices. A slide I showed has smartwatches, cars, smart TVs, computers, obviously smartphones, Android and iOS. Assistant is available throughout all of these devices and smart speakers as well. Now, the usage is indeed picking up very, very fast. I was able to share that this year is going to be a 10x in terms of usage. People are using it more and more often. And it's kind of becoming more of a habitual thing. Once you're used to asking your assistant every morning, what is the news? And you're used to having that 2 minutes in the morning or really understanding what's going on in the world while you're doing something else, that is just becoming a habit for people, and they start using it more and more often. You asked also about monetization, and look, we're testing on a lot of things here. It's still very early days. Some things are much easier to monetize, like the audio news briefs. You can simply put in an advertising snippet within your audio news brief, right? So if your news brief is 2 minutes, the last 15 or 20 seconds could be an ad, right? So that's a very easy way to monetize, comparable to radio. That's a good question, because as I mentioned, there's different things to try out, from audio news briefs to just having AMP pages to also having much more interactive an app or an action on Google. I would certainly advise starting off with audio news briefs, also called narrative news. So that's an RSS feed that you give to Google, and we pick up that content and serve that whenever a query is asked, such as, hey Google, what's the news? Or hey Google, what's the business news? Or hey Google, I want to talk to, or I want to hear latest news from this publisher. And then we trigger this audio news brief, which is very easy to do. It's just a human-created, human-made, human spoken news feed, and that's relatively easy to do. And once you do that, you can get data on how people engage with that, how often, if they like it, those kind of things. You can start understanding basically how people experience your brand, your content in a whole new way.